Most people think burnout is like a crash. You get stressed, you push harder, you collapse, and then you get some rest and bounce back. But that's not really how burnout happens. You don't start with a breakdown. You start with the stories you tell yourself. You say, I'm just busy right now, or it's just temporary, or once I get through this week, everything will be okay. How many times have you told yourself exactly that? It's not just how we justify the exhaustion, it's how we normalize it. It's how we normalize the headaches, the forgetfulness, the emotional flatness or emotional flares. We turn this chaotic life into our new normal and we commit to it. And once we've really taught our bodies that survival is the baseline, burnout doesn't become an event, it becomes an inevitability. It becomes something that we automatically go to because of the self-neglect that we've provided. So burnout isn't this simple 4-stage circle that you might think of. Burnout is really this tornado, this vortex that keeps pulling you down further and further into it without even realizing that you're burnt out at all. In this video, I want to look at what is burnout? How does burnout feel? Why don't we realize we're burnout until it's far too late? And then dispel some of the simple circle myth about burnout and really look at the burnout vortex and what that looks like. You're going to see how we build systems to remove ourselves from burnout. Because if you've ever Googled burnout before, you'll know that taking a bath, maybe a long weekend away, doesn't really remove you from it as a whole. We need systems in place to help recapture our energy and figure out why we were depleted of so much of it in the first place. So what is burnout really? When people ask, what is burnout? I don't think they're really looking for a definition. They're looking for an explanation on why their body and their brain had stopped cooperating, have stopped working together. Burnout isn't just exhaustion. It's when your body says no more. It's not weakness, and it's out of protection. Your body is trying to protect itself from the state that it's in and has been in. So here's what's really happening. When stress is consistent, your system keeps flooding itself with cortisol and adrenaline to keep you moving, keep you going. For a while that works, but the deadlines keep coming, the plates keep spinning, you need to keep doing stuff. It just seems never ending. And your body is borrowing from tomorrow's energy just to survive today. So while you made it through today, you have less energy for tomorrow. And you do that consistently over weeks and weeks and months and months. Eventually you run out of credits. The brain starts slowing down and stopping non-essential things like creativity and memory. Maybe patience and empathy. Those are all shut down and consumed for fuel because your body is just trying to keep running. It doesn't have the extra energy for those things. That's burnout, when your body shifts from performance to protection. And that's why it's so deceptive. The moment you stop resting, this tornado shows up, this vortex keeps pulling you down because you've justified every step of the way on how you just need to get through this week or get through this holiday season or this month or this big project. You might feel a bit of relief, but you've consumed so much of your energy for tomorrow and next week that by the time you get home, you find it hard to even feed yourself or your family because you don't have the energy left to do those small little things. And you can take a long walk or a bath or a weekend away, things that would normally fix your energy, and find that as soon as you come back, your body is like, no, I am not going to restore these systems until I know that we are in long-term recovery, until I know that we're not going to go just back into this chaotic way of life because you've lived in this chaotic way of life for so long. So burnout is really your body's reinforcement of boundaries that you refuse to either set or listen to. It's the moment your body says, I can't help you stay alive and perform at your best at the same time. And until the truth is heard, just every break just becomes a pit stop and you continue the cycle further and further and further. So burnout, once again, is your body saying, I can't keep you alive and have you perform at this level at the same time. And it starts shutting down those systems. So what does burnout feel like? If burnout is your body's way of saying no more, how does it actually feel to go through burnout? So at first, it's going to be subtle. you're still gonna get through the day. You're gonna feel like maybe something's off in the background, feel a little out of tune, or just a little stressed. And you're telling yourself you're just busy, or you're getting older and you're slowing down, or maybe that there's more demands at work or more demands in your family than there used to be, and you're just feeling that. But underneath, something isn't right. If you imagine yourself like a plate, and at first you start off with a dinner plate, full dinner plate, full of meat and vegetables, potatoes, everything piled out for you, and you can easily handle all the tasks that are on your big dinner plate. But soon you get to a smaller plate, and soon you're maybe at a side plate, and you're trying to fit all of the tasks you had before on your side plate. And you're like, something feels different. I used to be able to do these easily. I used to be able to have no problem handling a full plate load of work, and now I can barely handle a side plate. So what do? You work harder. And you feel like if you just push on a little more, you'll get back to the full dinner plate. But then, in overloading yourself a little more, you go down to maybe a little saucer plate. And your plates keep getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and you're able to handle less and less workload. Because you feel if you just press on a little more and press a little harder, you'll be able to accomplish everything. That's how burnout is implemented. You begin to be able to do less and less, and you try harder and harder to handle more. You just can't seem to get there. It feels like this slow collapse of capability. Tasks that used to be simple, used to easily focus on, are difficult. Noise begins to hurt. Conversations drain you and exhaust you. Your brain feels heavy and thick, like it's moving through a fog. That's what burnout feels like. You start living life in maybe fragments. You show up, but you're not fully there. You read an email 3 times before you can process it. You go to dinner with people who care about you and feel absolutely nothing. Not empathy, just depletion, just empty. And then eventually, even rest stops working. The night off, the weekend away, it's just a trip. And maybe that moment you feel a little better. You start to push again to prove that you're back to normal, to prove that you've gotten yourself out of burnout. But the plate's never reset. You're never back to a dinner plate. You're just more frustrated because you can't find a way out of the situation you're in. Burnout's not about doing too much or carrying too much. It's about not having a system built for recovery and not listening when your body says that you're doing too much. Not listening when you need to pull back and conserve your energy and being in consistent survival mode. We don't recognize burnout until it's too late because of the stories we consistently tell ourselves. So burnout doesn't start with exhaustion. It starts with the purpose, the reason you're pushing harder. Maybe you're working on a new project and you feel useful and driven, so you begin to skip some of the things that matter. You skip meals or work long hours or justify the midnight thinking and planning sessions. And you know that you're consistently justifying burnout by the things that you tell yourself. You'll say like, it's just a busy season, or once I'm finished with this project, it'll all calm down. But at the end of the day, you know it never does. And there's another project right behind it. I thrive under pressure is another thing I hear people say. Or I can reset once I settle this. I just need to get this done so I can rest. But those are things that people say in survival mode when they know that they're pushing themselves too far and they justify their experiences by that. Eventually, your body starts talking to you and you get headaches and you forget things. You see your body shutting down with irritability or brain fog. And in those situations, you'll say things like, I'm just getting older. Or maybe it's my diet. I'm not eating the same as I used to. Or working out at work is just stressful for everyone right now. I'm not alone. Everyone's stressed. Or this is just adulthood. We normalize this kind of dysfunction by the languages we tell ourselves, by the words we justify this way. But there's actually something happening here. Your brain is stopping you from distinguishing between progress and survival. That's why it's really important to understand when you're using these kinds of phrases with yourself and how you justify your exhaustion the most. Your language might be a little different than what I've said here, but I think you're still going to understand how you justify these things and how you say that everyone feels this way and everyone's exhausted or it's just a short period. But it's important because we don't necessarily move past this. Sometimes it just gets worse and worse. So let's look at what people think burnout looks like. What is the misconception and the myth about burnout? When most people picture burnout, they picture these tiny little circles right here, right? You're overstressed. It turns into chronic stress because you're consistently stressed. And then you go through some sort of honeymoon phase where you're like just pushing through. You get burnout, you rest, and you're back to normal. But if you've ever experienced burnout, you know it's not this simple, manageable, pretty little circle. You know there's a lot more complicated than that, and there's a lot more phases. And just a little bit of rest doesn't actually pull you back from burnout. So there is versions of this that actually show what the cycle is, what people go through in burnout. It looks more like a tornado. It doesn't look like a circle. And it's something that you get drugged down with each rotation. And I think people tend to really miss exactly how far down on this tornado they are before they realize they're even experiencing burnout, before they realize that what they're experiencing is past just normal adult exhaustion. So let's take a moment and look at this burnout tornado and what it really looks like. So this is a burnout tornado. As you can see, it's a lot more complicated and a lot more steps in this tiny little circle I showed you before. But it all starts with this chronic stress phase, right? Where we go from a little bit of stress here and there to where it turns chronic. We're not burnout yet. We don't realize we're burnout. We just feel stress consistently. And it carries over from one part of our life into another. So stress from work might consistently come home to where you feel stressed at home and you feel like no matter what you do, you can't leave your work at work. And maybe this is where you say things like, it's just a busy season. I'll be better once the season is over. I'll be better once I finish this project. Or you'll say things like, I just feel like everything's urgent. And because it's urgent, I need to work on this. But that urgency becomes your new normal. And that stress goes from sparse and every once in a while to chronic and consistent. And that's the first stage of burnout. But you don't know you're burnout yet. Next, we go into the exhaustion phase. This is where your body starts talking to you. Your body starts shutting down some of the systems and saying, no, this might be a little too much. You start to see small little cracks. Nothing huge yet. You wake up tired, even after getting a full night's sleep. Or you're more forgetful and more reactive than you used to be. Your patience is very thin, right? You keep apologizing for being snappy, but you don't really know why you're snappy and why that's your defense. You tell yourself it's just stress or hormone changes or age or the time of the year, right? But this isn't the normal kind of tired. It's more than that. And your body is begging you to stop. But you keep whispering, just one more week, just one more project, just one more holiday. You push harder because you don't yet know that you're burnt out. You just feel exhausted. And then the next phase is the habitual burnout or the new normal, right? This is where burnout really begins to hide best because you're still functioning. You're still showing up. You're still doing the work. You're replying to messages. You might be a little slower. Everything feels heavy. You feel exhausted. Your jokes have started disappearing a little bit. Your humor is disappearing, but you're still getting your work done. This is really a dangerous stage because you look stable. You're producing results, maybe not as good results as you used to, but you're still producing. And you're still not questioning if you're burnout, not even you. You don't even realize that you're 3 steps into the burnout cycle at this point. The next phase is actually the really scary one for me. It's the turning point. This is the point of no return. Some people at this phase recognize that they need help and they get it, but most double down. They convince themselves that if they organize themselves a little better, or if they schedule and think positive, they'll be able to find their way out of this. This turning point phase is really frightening because maybe small things begin to feel like the world's ending. You're just sitting in your car for a while after work, not able to go in the house, not able to open the door, maybe not even able to drive home without taking some time to breathe and calm down. These moments either break you or begin to wake you up. Unfortunately, still yet, most people don't realize they're experiencing burnout. Not even in phase 4. It's in phase 5 where they begin to see that maybe this is more than just exhaustion. Maybe they might need some help. Phase 5 is identity crisis. Who I am I without output? This is where most people finally realize they're burnt out, because it's no longer about energy, it's about identity. You start to lose who you were. The things that brought you joy in the past, maybe it was walking the woods or hiking or spending time with your kids or grandkids, no longer bring you that joy. The work that you staked your identity on, you're not that productive anymore. You're not exceptional at it anymore because it's all starting to slide. You ask yourself, do I even like my job? Do I like my life? Or even myself? Do I like who I am? If you have been masking or people-pleasing or adapting, a lot of those times it begins to fall because you find that is too exhausting to continue it. You can't keep conforming. You can't keep performing. And it feels like who you are is disappearing. This space feels empty, but it's actually the beginning of the truth. It's actually the moment most people begin to see they're in burnout. And they either try to find a way to claw themselves out of this, or they move further down. If you move further down, you begin to enter the mental health crisis phase. This is where your body and mind has been dealing with chronic stress for far too long, and it begins to affect your mental health. Nobody can keep up that pace for months and years and not have an effect on them. Nobody. Now the mind joins in. Anxiety spikes, depression creeps in. You go numb. Absolutely numb. You feel unmotivated, not because you don't care, but because you have nothing left to give. You're completely empty. It's easy to mistake this for weakness, but it's not. It's your body protecting itself. It's your system going offline to protect you from any further damage. It's the point where burnout begins to become worse issues, home issues, because you're too far into survival mode. And the last one is the physical breakdown. It's the bottom of a tornado, where your body actually starts breaking down. We see chronic illnesses, chronic fatigue. We see new physical ailments coming up because your body just cannot function at that level anymore. You physically begin to collapse. You start disappearing, skipping plans. You withdraw. You miss meetings. You withdraw from things that you once were interested in. You cancel on friends and family. You just completely pull away and completely begin to shut down all parts of you. It doesn't matter which phase you are in of burnout. There are ways to come back from it. I know if you've ever done a quick Google search, Google is going to tell you to practice self-care. But if you find yourself far enough down this tornado, self-care alone won't pull you out. While it might be a part of the journey, it's not the whole journey. It's only a part of it. Now it's about building systems that figures out how your energy was so tapped, and then to understand what you can do to begin to move out of it. Burnout is not the end of you. It's the moment your body demands a different way forward. There are ways out, real, lasting ways. Not quick fixes, not bubble baths, not weekends away, but ways to rewire how you handle stress and to begin to see burnout before you get far down in that burnout tornado, far pulled into that vortex. Getting out of burnout is about taking your energy back. Little bit, tiny bits, day after day. And as soon as you get it back, that doesn't mean you just dish it right back out. That means you have energy in reserves. And you let your body know that these changes are for the long term. Start small. Adjust how you work. Rest. Rest until your nervous system is ready to recover, and listen to your body because it's going to tell you what you need to do most steps of the way. As part of this, I've included a handout that will run you through the burnout vortex, the burnout tornado. Review it and see where you are now. Maybe where you were a couple months ago. Do an inventory on what drains your energy the most. and come back for our next videos. I'm going to talk about how we build the system to get out of there, what self-care really looks like for us, how we set boundaries to not get pulled back into burnout. That's what we're talking about in the next several videos. So come back, check them out, look at the handout, and understand what phase of burnout you might be in right now and what you can do to really begin to come out of it.